You ever think about quitting?
It's the combat of life, hammering the snot out of you.
Well, stand by, dig in deep, and get ready to get fired up with us.
Welcome to the Team Never Quit podcast, the #1 podcast that inspires you to fight on. I'm your host, David Rutherford, here with Mr. Never Quit himself, Marcus Luttrell.
Our mission is to help you embrace the suck of life, to teach you the values of working your ass off, and to interview the most hard-charging people on planet Earth.
We know life is hard. It's time for you to suck it up, Buttercup, and let us teach you to persevere in every environment imaginable by sharing real-world lessons learned by those who never quit. That's right. It's time, Marcus, for us to help them defeat the negative insurgency in their lives.
You fire me up. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's roll.
Let's roll. I remember the first time, Marcus, that I tried surfing, bro. I was 12 years old. I got my first board. I'd been boogie boarding for a few years. I got my first board. I remember at Island Water Sports, it was a Fox Wave Weapons, candy striped. It was awesome. There was a nice little swell, or for us in Florida, right, like 2 foot or whatever. We go over. My buddy lived right across from the street, Ranch Critchfield. We go across. We paddle out, and there was a little reef out there back then at Red Reef Park. And I never forget, I was paddling real hard on my first, nice wave. And I drove that wave weapon right into the reef and got a big ding on it my very first paddle. So that was my first experience of surfing.
Man, I didn't start surfing till Hawaii.
When you went out, you didn't surf at all in Buds?
No. What? Did you?
Hell yeah.
You went into the water during Buds when you didn't have to?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me, dude?
That's dumb.
No.
That's just dumb.
Well, listen, it stopped after when I was there.
That's dumb.
Like 9 months, and then I was like, I don't want to be in the water.
Oh my God. So surf PT.
Oh my God.
Surf PT. So I had to learn how to do it, and then I re-enlisted on a surfboard. Did I tell you that?
No way.
Yeah, I did my first re-enlistment on a surfboard.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. We're UDT frogmen, warriors from Nakoa Kai, warriors from the deep, baby. And that's our life out there. I mean, we live on an island, so I mean, you have to embrace the culture out there. So it's it opens up a lot of that island lifestyle if you do that, right?
Yeah,
if you come out and move out there and you're just like, I'm gonna go to work, go back home, and then that's
miserable.
Yeah, it's miserable.
Yeah.
Get island fever real bad. And I did, being a Texas boy. But then, as you progress, you're there longer. The guys start hanging out, and that's what you do. I mean, you just go to the beach and hang out. Why not? It's best surfing in the world, right?
In the world.
So, especially for PT. I mean, we could have been swimming around the island. They're doing, runs or something like that. So I'm like, PT, surfing over.
So, is it on I imagine you getting some big old 18-foot longboard.
I had a dog, dude. Yeah, you told me when I first went out there, I'm a big boy. I was real big back then.
You were what? I mean, you're probably 250 then?
Yeah. Typical team guy was like, no, I want that short, the cool looking one.
the 5'8" thruster.
Yeah, the 6'2" kind of deal. Yeah. Like, give me that sucker, man. I don't want this big old man board. And trust me, you don't know. I'm like, man, I'm a Navy SEAL.
You're a Howley.
I know, yeah. Yeah, that came real apparent real fast, man, what I didn't know. And we're watermen.
Yeah.
But living in that barrel, man.
Whole different world.
Yep.
And a whole different power.
Hand it to you.
Do you remember?
Just paddling out. And I mean, just to be a good surfer, you have to be in phenomenal shape.
Phenomenal. It's one of the most difficult physical regimens there is to surf.
Paddling out, man.
Paddling back and forth, finding the right spot in the lineup, timing the sets, paddling into the waves, especially there's a ton of people in the water. I mean, there's a truckload to it. When was all right, so obviously, let's back it up a little bit. Coming from Texas, and going into the water at Buds, what was that like, dude?
Well, man, I didn't know that the Pacific Ocean never got warm. I didn't know that. It's Southern California. There's beautiful women running around in bikinis, tan bodies. That's why they're tan, because no one's in the water. It's damn cold. Come to find out. I do not like the cold water at all. And no frogman does, right? That's that mess chief, man. He's just like, hey, cold, wet environment to dry, wet environment.
Yeah.
It's miserable all the time.
You
don't really know what that means, right? And I remember my first time I got I got medicaled in, right, and found all the paperwork. And before I even got my greens, I had dungarees on my first conditioning run. And
I love that.
Boondockers dungarees and that white T-shirt.
Yeah, I love
the real Boondocker, the denim ones.
Oh, with the big old bell bottoms.
And your whole these Navy SEAls, you're part of the you're in the books. That's what I always thought. I was like, man, we're in the books kind of deal. And then you're waiting to hit the surf for the first time.
Right.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Kind of excited about it, right?
You're fired up.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're running like, all right, start this run, everybody get wet and sandy. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I'll go way out there, man. Just get as sandy as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I was bleeding so bad.
For those Dunga jams.
Man, those jammies. Oh. And about the I don't know, the 37th time we hit the surf between, it was PTR, so it was between the dive tower and the rocks. We'd already been in there 37 times. It was just torture.
Oh. The Goon Squad. First run?
Oh, they'd start it where I was at, and then I don't know if you're a terrible runner like I am, but there's levels. Okay, there's levels. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the A, B, and C Goon Squads. Well, in my class too, man, I'd be like, hey boys, make sure you're ahead, because they would cap it at me.
Yeah, that's where you were the cutoff.
That's where the goon started, right there. And then I'd have to graduate. Well, I used to get my ass handed to me because of bad runner anyway. So, who really suffered were the good runners when they would have to get in that.
Have to come back and pull you out. Yeah.
And I tell you what, man, that lost its after doing them damn rabbit or mountain climbers and rabbit chasers and
monkey blankers.
Yeah, and bend over the rocking chairs. I mean, I didn't want to get wet and sandy ever again. This is the first day.
Well, all right. So once you realize, wow, the Pacific, it's just cold. It is, and it ain't, and no matter what, it's always cold.
But in your head, they're like, this is, you temper steel. You get it really, really cold, really hot, and you beat it to death.
Beat it, yeah.
And then it's the womb we come from. We're born from it, and we return to it.
Amen.
Man. And I after a while, I started soaking that in, especially when we got to, we're the underwater
Demolition. We are, man.
So,
UDT, baby. The frogmen.
And it's kind of one of those deals with the surfers who are really good at it. Once you realize that she owns you.
Oh, Mama Ocean?
Yeah.
She owns everything.
She'll humble your ass so fast.
When was the first time in Buzz you got truly humbled by Mama Ocean?
Man, third phase. Our first swim, we couldn't get out. I think 2 of our swim pairs made it out, and we kept getting my UDT actuated. I had a whittled a log that had a DOR lever on it. And I had that in my deal. A little added
incentive.
Yeah, get beat down by the instructor. You think it's a good idea in the beginning. It's stupid. And I'll get some attention drawn on you, Latrell. Great. But me and Tyler, washed ashore. And I remember warrant officer comes down there and goes, hey, we're effing frogmen. We get through the surf.
You're going
out. Yeah. We stayed out there, man, until literally, I think the XO had to come down and tell him to quit doing that.
Putting them out, putting you guys out.
Something else to go do. I think we had to go eat. They have to feed us.
Right. Luckily, they have to
feed us. So I got my education early, man.
Yeah.
And then when I got into recon, probably the worst one, you take pool comp and the worst washing machine hit you ever had in Hawaii because the waves are so big. Kind of Point, North Shore, man, we doing those. We have to go in and out of the beach through there, and we're towing that ruck line 60 feet, or depending on what the cycle's doing. So if you don't measure your tether right, your boat is still in. No, your pack is still.
It's gonna drag you right under, dude.
And back is all the way where you came from, man. And by the time I got out of the water, I was a mile and a half down the beach, away from everybody else.
I love it.
And I just on my hands and knees going, "Damn, mama," Whoa.
Oh, dude, I love it. Mine was like, because I thought I was a surfer. I grew up in South Florida. I've surfed some big waves. Head high wave was huge for us. And I got it there. And for me, my wake-up call was Hell Week, dude. We had El Nino.
Oh, yeah.
It was 32 foot Wednesday night, surf passage. They did it. Dude, it was a yard sale for like 2 miles. We had so many dudes quit that night. It was ridiculous.
All the team guys are standing up on the berms. You know it's going to be bad.
Oh,
especially when the first time out there, and everyone, you're like, wow, all these team guys came to see us go through buds. Maybe that happens all the time. No, it doesn't. You're about to get your
lunch tossed, dude. Oh, that's awesome.
And I think one of the most humbling things, I think we heloed out like 200 miles, and we had jumped out. We had a Zodiac out. But didn't crank kind of deal.
Yeah.
We were doing a recovery, cast recovery.
Right.
So we were out there for, I don't know how long, floating around. The water was purple. It was, literally purple. And you see the the mass coming at us just comes out of the water.
Yeah.
And my chief's like, hey, man, you want to see something scary? I was like, always. He goes, swim down about 20 feet, turn around, see what's coming at us. So I did. And to see in that purple water, that huge 500-foot, 50-story black object coming at you, man, and you're in the middle of nothing. And floating in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the oddest feeling when you start to put it in that perspective.
Yeah.
And then you know how we recover. So that in itself, first time you do it, there's no easing into you. You throw you 200 miles out, you're getting back in a sub, or you're swimming.
Yeah. There's no choice, man. There's no choice.
So, I mean, there are some things that we do in the teams that to teach us. We just have to, you got to throw us to the wolves, man.
And with the ocean, I believe it's the only way it happens, right? You can,
oh, man, sure.
Yeah, because there is no in between point with Mama Ocean, especially when she gets angry and she doesn't want you. And then if you're, one little piece of gear ain't right or whatever, man, your buoyancy ain't right. You gotta
understand, if you do something in the water as a sport or as a job, you have to be on point every second you're in there. Every time you get out of her and get back, there's something else coming at you that's new. It's always brand new when you climb in there.
That's what I love about it.
It's unknown, right? As soon as you go into water, close that canopy, and the blackness comes on, buddy.
Well, one of the greatest things I do with all my coaching clients or athletes I work with, when we always got to start with fear and where their true fears lie. So first thing I do, dude, is I take them to the beach and we swim 100, 200, 300 meters offshore and just sit there. Even on like flat days, just sit there and just watch them process. Then as bigger days. Now we're doing ocean swims. Now we're doing at night. Oh. And you just watch, man, how that process and what the ocean does to you, right? It changes your perspective. It has to change it.
You know how I got over my fear going into under the water, not worried? Just every time I just didn't worry about it anymore. Remember during surf torture at night after Hell Week, usually, I think it was when we get molested by the fur seals.
Yeah.
When they grab a hold of you and they start messing with you. And once you accept the fact, man, if it's coming, it's coming. You ain't on the top of the food chain. Nothing you can do. That's why no other fish seem to worry about anything. It's calming down, right?
Right.
Couple of good hits from some animals in there. They're just like, hey, I'm minding my own business right here. I'm not even looking at you. I got on my attack board. Just leave me alone, man.
Get those bioluminescents swimming around me right now. It's not even going to do a thing to me, dude. Well, I tell you what, man. I mean, we could go on all day long, but let's get to a true waterman. Let's get to one of the greatest watermen who's ever lived, in my opinion. Now, this guy, I got to tell you, from early on when I first started surfing, I've always looked up to this cat. I love the way he's focused. I love, his big giant brass, cojones. I love the way he's inventive, and I love the way he talks about fitness and his philosophy, man. Laird Hamilton, in my mind, is one of the greatest watermen who's ever lived. And man, what a privilege to have him on, huh?
Absolutely. You can't watch Riding Giants and not get fired up about big wave surfing. You can't follow. I mean, once you watch them guys do that, you're hooked.
The guys that invented toe and surfing. So, what do you say? Let's bring on one of the biggest, baddest, most awesome dudes out there in terms of surfing world, Mr. Laird Hamilton. All right, Marcus, and I told you this before, brother. Dude, so when I first paddled out in South Florida, I was 12 years old. And I'll never forget, man. It was like my whole life changed in that moment about getting out. And there were these 2-foot little knee slappers, but it didn't take long before all of a sudden I was the total grom, buying all the OP and the gotcha and the original Quicksilvers. But it didn't take long whatsoever until I heard about this dude, Laird Hamilton, man. Right. And then as I got older and came to appreciate the ocean, became a frogman, started working in the ocean. Dabbled with what it meant to be a waterman, man, you really come to appreciate the magnitude of true mastery, right? And what we did. So bringing Laird on the show today, for me, is like a personal dream come true to get to interact with him. Plus, I love the man's energy. I love what he's doing. So, ladies and gentlemen, Laird Hamilton.
All right. Well, thank you. That's I don't know how to follow that up. I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, I think I'm pretty blessed to be, I always say that to have the wave be the backdrop, that when the ocean's the thing and you're just there in it, you kind of have a tendency to just, you win at the beginning.
That's awesome, dude. Oh man, that's so cool. Well, so what we do, Laird, is when we get started, man, we like to warm up, like in anything, right? Good stretch routines, good warm-ups for us and the teams before. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little cognitive exercise here, and we call this the Mad Minute. Now, typically when you capture a guy downrange or you snatch him, you give him a Mad Minute, like what's he know? Are there threats right away? And to get rapid-fire information. Well, we want to do that with you, but on some much different style questions. So, Marcus, go ahead, brother. Fire away, bro.
All right, movie character you would play out in real life.
Oh, Gladiator.
Awesome.
Of course.
Awesome. All right, what does your significant other call you? What does Gabby call you?
Oh, lover.
That's cool.
Lover.
All right, favorite thing to cook?
Meat. and lots of it.
Meat.
We're gonna get along famously.
Yeah, dude. So we recorded the show at Marcus's at his ranch, man, and I'm trying to change my diet and a lot more greens in and all that stuff as I'm getting in my 40s. Well, we come out here and there's stacks of meat just laying around all day, every day, and I'm just like, how do you do it, bro? Anyways, so all right, here you go. If there was any era in history that you could go back and live in for 5 years, what era would it be?
Oh, it'd have to be knights and castles. Knights and castles.
That's cool, man. Right. That's super cool.
All right, favorite superhero?
Oh, Silver Surfer, buddy. Come on.
I asked this question to everybody, and I'm pretty good at guessing who was going to... I knew it was coming down. If I got it written down right here, bam.
Well, I mean, we've been surprised a lot, but that kind of makes sense right there. All right. What is your power animal?
Oh, killer whale.
Nice.
Orca.
What was your favorite childhood injury?
Oh, my favorite childhood injury? Ooh, that would be probably have to be my that was my almost unfavorite, but big cuts, big stitched up cuts. I think I always liked that, like a badge of honor. I split my thigh open and I had a bunch of stitches. Big, actually my head, I got speared in the head and I had like 130 stitches in my head. That was kind of Frankensteinish.
And when whenever you shave your head after it and you're like walking around and people think you had like a full frontal lobotomy, they're like, ah!
That's the greatest.
I had a frontal lobotomy.
when they come on and they're like, no, that's a good one though, but not the best one. This one was really good. My brother and I are the same way. Every time the first thing he asked me when I got back, he goes, "Do you have any facial scars that are going to be really cool?" Like, man, I got hit in the face, but I don't know if it's going to. We want this lightning bolt, this Josie Whale is kind of looking there, right? Right? So that's awesome. Like, measure him up, brother.
All right.
I dated a girl once that had a big scar, and she was super conscientious of it. It was kind of like thought it was a negative thing, and I go, "Are you kidding? Scars are sexy. This means you lived.
Amen.
You did something.
Amen.
You experienced something."
For sure. All right. Last question. What is your biggest failure in life?
My biggest failure? Not having enough time.
Yeah. Totally.
We were talking about that earlier.
We talk about that all the time, Laird. When you become that slave of time and you can't stop and just float in that moment of being in the gap where everything is just right in the world. And we look back as young Frogman, we were talking about what was the greatest time in the teams for you. And for me, it was my first platoon, right? Where everything was brand new, where all you wanted to do was do 20-hour days, drink for 4 hours, get back up and do 20-hour days and just be a frogman. But not being able to live in that moment and really appreciate it as you're processing it. And, I guess it's just age.
And I think when you're young like that too, you're still optimistic and you don't I mean, it's like when you have that enthusiasm, that's one thing we talk about, retain the youthful enthusiasm where you're excited, you're stoked, you're not disheartened or discouraged because of, the problem is that you have experiences and then you get that those things begin to discourage you and you don't retain that optimism. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to do anytime is to to retain that optimism, that enthusiasm, because that's what gets you through all the low spots. Is that you look at a kid and they're just they believe in everything and they hope for everything, and you get a little bit older and life's kind of hammered on you and you kind of just get disheartened. And when you lose that, you kind of lose that. That's where you lose a lot of the zest for living.
Well, I mean, that is the perfect, pretense for what this show is all about. And I was sharing you before we got on, our listeners are people that are out there around the world and they're looking for that thing, man, that spark that's going to help them retain that youthful exuberance, right? So let's make the pivot, man. And if you could, would you please share with us and our listeners, man, what was your greatest never quit story ever?
I mean, I've had a couple, I've been lost at sea and I've been held, some of them have been shorter periods of time when you're down at the bottom of the ocean and, it's dark and you're alone and you just wonder and there's no air, always a factor. And then you're just wondering if you're going to come back. I mean, I've done some endurance things where, where you paddle against the wind for 20 hours and those things are stretched out over time. So, there's different types of those moments and, there's those intense condensed ones that last for seconds. And then there's those other ones that are stretched out over, days and I don't know which ones are worse or better, but each one has its own, lesson in it. And it's those are the tests that make you who you are. And you just have to, what is that old saying? When the times are tough, the tough get going. I mean, it's that's when you find out what you're made of, and I don't think I think you just don't ever give yourself an option to not continue, like not fight, I mean, our desire to live is so powerful. People say, oh, if I ever got hurt, and I couldn't do this and do that, I wouldn't want to live, but you'd be surprised. If you ever do get hurt, you want to live, believe me. Even if you just finger wounds.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say that just because they didn't want to get the injury itself, and then just the magnitude of the thought of being hurt like that. And it's true, man. Once you get there, it's
But hold on there, Troop. I mean, just before we came on, we were having a chat. We were talking about your day and when Nick Irving, who's a Ranger sniper that went through a real harrowing experience, and there are those moments where that little negative speak creeps in and seeds that doubt. So when you were lost at sea, how did you fight that, Laird?
Yeah, well, that's a tricky game, the fighting of the negative, the guy with the horns tell you're not going to make it, it's the end, blah, 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 all that stuff that your brain, those scenarios that your brain loves to run. I mean, it's an obvious system that's in our mechanics. It's there for a reason. I don't know if it's there to build up the energy so we can continue on, because we have a natural resistance of it. And so it can't just be all flowers and positiveness. And, you have to have that kind of the horn man come in and, talk shit. And, that I rode this wave years ago that has a significance, but, I talked about the little battle between the good and evil, and the one side, the guy's going, jump off, you're never going to make it. And the other side's going, hey, listen, if you stay on, you could make it, and don't jump off until you get knocked off. And so,
and for our listeners,
I think that's part of it.
And for our listeners, what Laird's talking about is back in the day when, in Tahiti and Tehipu opened up, he rode a wave which was considered by a lot of people out there that the heaviest wave ever ridden. And I think what always fascinates me, and what you're talking about right now, is that moment right in between where you make the decision, all right, I'm going, and
Yeah. Look, it's important to understand that water is its own animal, its own life force, right? And the unique thing about what he does, and then being at SDVs, man, is every time you get into water, you're up against a new competitor, and you don't have any idea what kind of mood they're in, what they're capable of, what the backstory is all about. So you have to be honed in on yourself every second.
You don't get a break.
No, and I mean, so much respect that goes into just stepping into her and kind of opening yourself up, because you are not the top of the food chain, and living in the world he did right there at the cusp, and when earth meets water, that's violent, man. That is really violent, and you get trapped in that area, just stand by.
Yeah,
it's the most humbling ass whipping you ever had in your entire life. And you can't argue, man. You try to argue, she'll drown you.
Yeah,
she'll shut you up, right? She'll come tumbling down and just cave you down and get that respect back. And I would imagine when you're lost out there, because we've been out there for hours and hours, but floating around, everything changes. Like I said, it's hot for a couple hours, then she'll freeze you at night. It becomes total darkness, man. She rips the light away from you, and then everything comes crawling around. It's a humbling thing to get over, man. So being lost out there, I can only by yourself.
That's awesome.
I couldn't imagine. Yeah.
So Laird, when was the first time that you said, all right, this is the life I want. I want that youthful exuberance, but to take it to another level, right? To really push, to see where your quitting point was and how far you could push it.
I think that it organically happened over time. I think I think it's, you guys can relate to this you can't make a chicken out of an eagle. You can only make a super chicken. So at the end, you got to start with the right base and have the mentality. And I mean, the people that do the things you guys do, people that do the things I do, these people are born this way. This is who they are. Now it's just a matter of if you have the training and the exposure and the experience and all of those things. But you have to start with the nucleus. You have to start with that kind of the mentality. And then if you're fortunate enough to be able to be exposed to the environments that allow you, or exposed to the training or the experience that allows you to evolve. But it's like you when you're a kid, you're a little daredevil. You'll jump off of anything. You're lucky to be alive. When by the time you're 14, your mom's like, it's a miracle. You live that long and all that stuff. So that's where you start with that stuff, and then you see if you get smart along the way, and if you don't, then maybe you're not here. And always good to be lucky. Better than my friend says, better lucky than good.
Absolutely,
yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't matter how good
Amen,
you are, but
brother.
luck is always a great thing. And then looking at other people, I got some guys I really look up to that live in a certain way, and I admire them, and they're older guys, and I go, what's their secret? And when I look at every guy that has kind of retained his passion as he gets older, that's one of the key elements to that longevity, is that passion, that enthusiasm. They all have it. All the older guys that are still rolling, they all have that kind of that enthusiasm. And so I go, well, that's one of the key elements, is you need to be passionate in order to keep sustaining it. Otherwise, if and then there's a famous stuntman said, never let your memories be bigger than your dreams, and so, you don't sit back and look back like, well, back in those days and this and that, and, live in the past. I mean, you always can reflect on it, but at the end, you need to be aspiring and desiring to continue on. And then that's, but mine started young. I was a little daredevil from the beginning, and was fortunate to have some sense enough to know when, what the line was, and start to learn and listen to, hey, gravity, but once you get past a certain height, when you hit, you don't make it, kind of thing. That kind of, you start learning, and then you start biting off bigger chunks and wanting more, and and then there's another saying, there's old pilots and bold pilots, but no old bold pilots. So there's some stuff, there's some truisms, out there that you live by that are definitely continuous with everybody who's in in these positions.
Oh, they're timeless, man. That's why they're there.
Exactly.
The depth in that little phrase. I mean, Rut gets on me all the time because my grandfather was huge on that, right? And when you're younger and growing up, they drop those on you, and you're like, I don't even know what that means, man. What does that even mean, man? And then it's funny because as time goes on, you get in those situations, you're like, yeah, oh yeah.
You say them all the time, dude. Half the time, I think you're taking like 5 different ones and mashing them together and making it work.
Instead of getting this long debate about it, that phrase sums up exactly what I wanted to say.
Oh, I love it. All right. So one of the big things that we always talk about, and especially people that are athletes and operators and all that, a big component of our evolutionary process is the acceptance that pain is part of it. And that if you don't, if you try and resist and you think you're going to become an expert where it's physical, mental, and, just anguish, if that pain isn't a real part and an exciting and a driver, then you're done. Yeah. So how do you teach people, Laird, that in your world and just through life, because I know you do a lot of coaching and other things beyond just the water as well. How do you teach people to look forward to pain and accept it? What are some of the things you think about?
Well, I mean, what's interesting about pain, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, and if you look at in fact, everything in nature and everything in our metabolic system, everything kind of excels under stress. Yeah. I mean, it's just what, if you want to make a rose bush bloom, you prune it. And so, and a pruning probably doesn't feel too good because you're chopping off the leaves and cutting the branches, but that's, that's the mentality that it takes. It's like, hey, you want to make muscles, you got to work out till you're sore and then they grow. And, you want to make your immune system stronger. You got to, sit in this ice tub until you're, uncomfortably. I mean, everything happens when we're at that, at the place where we can't either take it or we can't do it anymore. That's when all of the breakthroughs happen. My friend started this health club chain years ago, and he knew the guy that started Nautilus equipment. Mm-hmm. So they came in and he wanted to show him the Nautilus machines, and the guy came in and the guy worked out until he threw up, and the guy says, yeah, look at how great these machines are. And my friend looked at him and said, hey, listen, if you lifted a sack of potatoes until you threw up, you'd get muscles. And so, at the end of the day,
whoa, I mean, whoa, don't swing that common sense bat.
There's no way around. And the fact is that if you're an athlete or an operator or anybody that's in the world, there's no such thing as 100%. You're never 100%. It's how you operate with these injuries, this pain. How well can you perform wounded is really your true essence. That's really...
It's all I got. You're getting all I got. Call it what you want, 100%, man. And I talk about that too. If my arm's cut off, I'm still going to give you everything I got, but minus the arm.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. But listen, life is a formulaic process, and it doesn't matter what you do and where you do it. It's all there's harmony amongst all of the philosophies and all of the formulas in order to be. And if you want to be good at something, or you want to, the only way to be good at something is to put the hours in. And the fact is, again, another saying, no pain, no gain. I mean, it's just, you're not going to get around it. I have a friend that really doesn't like pain, and he's always wondering why he's plateaued. And I go, well, you plateau because you don't embrace, the
discomfort. Yeah.
Embrace it. He lived there. We have a saying, this is my house and this is where I live. And it doesn't, and that means bruises, cut, wounds, breaks, whatever you got. And I mean, listen, everybody has different pain thresholds, but we all feel it, and and deal with it.
I love it. I love it. One of the things that I want to just backtrack a little bit, you talked about these early influences, and then you talk about kind of the people you surround yourself. Obviously, you know, in our world, man, we call it the team's the Brotherhood, and that Brotherhood.
I love that part too, man.
And that brotherhood is what feeds the drive, right? You see your buddy, and they're stepping that out a little bit further, and then your other buddies like, come on, man, what are you doing? I mean, are you giving it your all? And we feed each other that ability to endure pain, but better yet, to really, like you talked about, to strive. Hey, where is that limit? Because I want to just bust right on through. So who are some of those people?
On top of the guys who came before us.
Amen.
We keep them around and listen to their stories and take notes from them. And whether we listen to them, we joke about that all the time. Guys like, put ear pro in while you're shooting his guns. You're going to be deaf like me. Whatever, old timer, get out of my way. You don't know. And then, now we're all deaf. Telling the younger guys that no one listens, but I had the advice. Thanks. But, the important part of keeping them around, and the crew that you run around with, the world you live in, man, is that it's tight. It's tight.
It's tight.
You have to earn your stripes to be in it, and once you're in it, man, you got the respect of putting the work in.
But that's great. How long did it take you to earn the respect of this epic crew that you're surrounded by?
Well, first of all, I want to start out by saying, you are the company you keep, right?
Amen.
So at the end of the day, and that we are by nature communal creatures. We are creatures that we need that camaraderie. You talk to athletes who don't play anymore, and the only thing they miss is they don't miss the fame and the screaming audiences. They miss their buddies. Listen, in the ops, they use that system to make everybody hang in there, because you're going to be like, hey, I don't really want to be here, but
absolutely.
That's so awesome, man.
I'm just saying, I'm not going to leave my buddy behind. You find, listen, I have some amazing people. We have a saying, people said, give respect. And I always say, act respectfully and then get respected. There's a thing about how you conduct yourself. And, I tell my wife about this thing called the honey line, which is, if you find a bee, you follow a bee, you find another bee, and then you find a lot of bees, and eventually you find the hive, and that's where the honey is. And so when you have good people, or the kind of like-minded people that you surround yourself, that usually attracts other people like that, and then you begin to build that group of, and a lot of the greatest things that, in fact, I would say all the greatest things I've accomplished have been through working together and having, a partner or partners in a mission and pulling it off together, because there's two people working together is like, 5 individuals separately. So, but the group I have, I think it's come over time, it's because, you don't really know who your real friends are until you really get in a heavy situation. And it's easy to say, hey, yeah, I'm your pal and we're bros and have a beer and hang out and all that. And then all of a sudden shit comes down and you turn around and you're like, well, where is my bro?
Where did he go? Yeah,
and
right.
Then the other guy, and then some guy some guy but never really hit it off with, you didn't have a lot in common with, comes out of the woodwork and is there, back to back with you, laying his shit on the line for you. And then you're kind of like, wow, man, this guy's my pal in a real way, which is what it's really about. So, it has a tendency to weed out that process. We don't have that enough. In our evolution, when we had to survive nature, we needed each other. And so we needed to know who was good, who we could trust and rely on to lay their ass out for us, because if we didn't know that, and I think we've lost a little bit of that skill. Unless you're in your line of work or in situations that I get in now and then, you don't get to know that in normal civilian living, until you get, until somebody gets in front of a bus or something, and somebody's got to, jump in the way to get them out. But again, I think that's part of that thing that people are born with. These guys are like that, are just the guys that help, that jump in there, that are willing to put their ass on the line. They're born that way. That's just what they automatically. It's hard to become that guy. That's just something that you're predisposed to have. I believe.
Sure. And we all gravitate toward each other. Call it whatever you want. We gravitate toward each other.
Well, it's the energy you feel off of somebody who's in that space, man. When that switch flips and they're thinking clearly, they're not looking at it like, oh, I'm turning and going the other way. They're like, hey man, you're here. I'm here. Let's lock arms and go into this thing together.
Like I said, it has to be tested, and you can tell it's kind of going away if you watch the news. Not to bring that up, but when the gunfire and everybody's just running the opposite direction, people who love each other have gunfire around us, and whatever it is in your crew, man, we all look to where it's coming from, and then you stick around because you got. You love these guys, man. You've been through hell together.
Well, my favorite thing, because I subscribe and follow surfing, all those things. I'm just passionate for. I wish I did it more, but I always love on those giant days when you guys are out there, and when you drop in and the guys eat it, and you see who's first on that throttle to get in there, right? And that's the dude. It's like,
well,
holy cow, man!
That's the proof in what you've just been talking about.
Absolutely.
I mean, this dude's going in and down there. He's dying, man. All right, let's all die. Come on.
Well, but you may not know this, but it's something that interesting, and you may, but when dolphins are surrounded in a net, that actually dolphins have the ability to be under a collective consciousness, which means that they're as one. They're all in a pod together. They're under one kind of consciousness that they're at, so they're just part of, like, they don't have individualism. They're one. So when the thing gets surrounded, that's why the guy doesn't just jump out of the net when they could. They all stay together and get whacked. And I think in our past we probably had some of that. We had some of that ability, and we still are able to. That's what team sports are. That's what the ops are. That's what these situations that when you get together, you kind of can get in almost a collective consciousness mobility position when you don't even have to tell your buddy anything. He doesn't say anything. Everybody's just doing what they're supposed to be doing, kind of as one unit. And it's a pretty interesting phenomenon. But but dolphins are, they live in that state. They can do that
freely.
They can do that all the time.
That objective consciousness, that activation of that pineal gland just firing off, man. And what's really interesting to me though is and I'm a big fan of yours and follow your philosophies and really dig it, and I try to do that, some aspects of it and what I do as well too. And but when did the real shift happen for you where you're like, man, there's a lot deeper stuff going on. It's not just me getting fired up, dropping in and being out there and trying to tame mama. But there's more to that. It's the spiritual awakening that's happening. When did you did the light bulb go on for you, or like you said, was it gradual?
I think I've had a few light switch moments. I think but the accumulation of those things, I think, obviously, family, children, the life-threatening experiences, stuff like that, where I think a combination of all of those things kind of, and the fact is that when when you have a relationship with the ocean, like I have and have had, I think that there's a spiritual aspect to it, because like we talked about earlier, you're just your finiteness, you're insignificant. You're just a grain of sand in a universe of beaches. I mean, it's like you're nothing. And so when you come at things from that kind of humility, that humble position kind of brings you into a more spiritual outlook. I think it's a natural occurrence that I don't know anybody that is spiritual and that isn't humble.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Pride isn't of the spirit, it's the ego. Yep. And so, but of course you got to believe in yourself and all those things. But I think it's a common. It's been over the years. I mean, I like I said, I was lost at sea, and I remember asking God, to I promised I'd turn from my my sinful ways if he just got me back to land. But but you get right back and you forget about it all, and you go right back to idle promises, those idle threats. But over the years, I think it comes with time. I really appreciate what you guys were talking about about looking up to your elders. I think it's something that we've really lost in our Western culture. I think we really, it's something that looking up to elders and learning from our elders. And, I mean, again, it's hard to, if an elder's not acting respectfully, then it's hard to respect them. But again, learning from our elders and having respect for them, I think that's a critical part of you becoming kind of more spiritual and maybe somebody that people can look up to as well. You know?
I agree. For me, my big spirituality, my big shift in that focus and understanding that, what you give is what you get, so to speak. And if you can find someone else who's willing to give as much as you are and you connect that up, man, you're doing great, was through my children, right? And that first time I held my oldest daughter and realized, man, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And holy cow, there's no manual in the SEAL teams for raising a little girl in South Florida. And I freaked out, man. I had this big burly beard. I just got back from overseas. And I was just like, holy, this is crazy, man. And I started praying right then and there. And I was like, man, I gotta get this down.
Well, that'll bring you to your knees. That'll bring you to your knees. I never felt vulnerability in my life until I had children. I mean, at the end, you don't even know what being vulnerable is until you have something, that little precious thing that you're not, it's not you. You don't, I mean, listen, hey, hurt me, stab me, beat me, whatever. I mean, it just doesn't, and even with your wife, and it's not the same as it is with the child. I mean, you love your wife and you never want anything to happen to her, but when your wife gets in the car and drives away, you don't think every single time she drives out, like, I hope something doesn't happen to the thing, and what's going to happen to the thing. All those scenarios that you run when you're thinking about your children. I have a funny thing that you might appreciate, which is, I tell people, I go, listen, being a parent is like making a samurai sword. I go, you take the steel, you heat it up, you beat it with a hammer, and you stick it in ice. And then you do it over and over and over and over, and eventually it's the strongest steel in the world. And I go, your kids take you, they heat you up, they beat you, and they stick you in ice, and they do it over and over, and eventually you're an adult. And parenting is really for our growth, and that's why it's called parenting. It's not called kidding. It would be called kidding for them. As long as we feed them and love them, they're good. They're going to grow, and they got all kind of action. But it's really our growth, our spiritual growth, our evolution in being a human, like to go to the next level of our growth. And I mean, at least for me, it's been that way. And as selfish as I am, the kids are, my daughters, it's like, and they can just, they wrap me around their finger and, order me, tell me what to do. And I run.
I love it, dude. I love it.
The daughters, man.
Yeah, the daughters. All right. So what's interesting, we'll shift a little bit over, is, when we talk about these really massive concepts of higher level thinking, spirituality, the connection to pain and the forging process and character and that true love of the innocent and what you say, that perpetual childlike nature to be excited and passionate. So many people have the wrong impression that if you live in that space, you got to be weak. And what I love about you, and I love about Marcus and, these other people that we bring on who talk about this stuff, man, it's intense, and you deliver an intensity. I'm sure people have told you, you get pretty fired up, bro. I like when your little neck vein starts jacking out.
Oh, yeah.
But you're talking about things that are incredibly, existential, if you will. And is it a balance? Do you, because I know you're into meditation and all those things. So is that kind of, do you do both? Do you have to do both? Or do you live in an upper level plane of intensity?
I live in a pretty intense level in general. Just I'm pretty wound, but yeah, I'm looking for the balance always. I mean, for me, the best healers are the best wounders. I mean, at the end of the day, the toughest guys are the sweetest guys. I mean, they're just the sweeties. All the guys that I know that are the toughest guys are sweethearts, and they're always looking. The last thing they want to do is go there. But if we finally do arrive at that place, then they might just go further than anybody else is ready to go. And so that's why they're going the other way. And so and I think people misconstrue, people walking around acting tough as really what tough is.
Exactly.
And what is strong and what is, and in a way, that old thing, running from a fight, that takes a lot more strength to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to turn around and run than I am going to just be prideful and walk right into fight like that. Just any child can do that. And it takes real intelligence, and it takes real balls, and it takes a real man to say, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, even if it's not my fault. I really don't want to go here, because we know what the other place is. And we all are too aware of it. We don't need to just go there and live there, because that's the spot you don't want to go. We're trying to avoid being there. Yeah, we're trying to avoid being there.
And what's interesting is, and every now and then I'll get to go out in public with Marcus, and obviously, especially if we do something here in Texas, man, it's just mobbed. And we were out the other night, and it's wild, man. People, like, you see them setting them up because their impression of Marcus is that he's this cold-blooded killer and all this stuff, and then they come up and their hands are shaking. They're like, "Hey, Mr. Luttrell, can I get a photo with you?" And he throws his big arm around him. He's like, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna get a photo with me," and and I'm sure you go through the same thing. People have this pre-existing expectation of what you're going to deliver, and I bet the question is to both of you, as when you see people in those vulnerable states, I mean, what crosses your mind? What do you want to teach them, in that spot? Because that's really they're figuring stuff out, and they're attracted to the mentalities that you guys deliver. So, Laird, what do you think about when those people come up to you in that moment?
Well, I'm honored. I'm honored, and I'm humbled by it. I'm thankful. And I also feel a responsibility if somebody looks up to me. And part of my conduct in my life, I mean, a big part of the way why I live the way I do is because of my own, and I put this on myself, but I feel a certain responsibility if somebody looks up to me to conduct myself in a manner in which they can, be respect. I'm still a man. I'm still just a man like any man. And, I think that, that it's, I always wanted to let people know that they're, just because I do something that I'm known for doesn't mean that they're not equally as important, and that they're, that we're all equal before a wave is what I always say. That's the line I have. I go, everybody's equal before a wave, and it doesn't matter who you are, or what you have, or what you've done, or any of that stuff. I go, we're just all, just one, we're just a heart beating.
What about you, brother?
Just most of the time, just humbled, and just I can't believe that someone would want to ask me for my autograph or for a picture or take a pic. I mean, look at me. I'm covered in tattoos. It's all my defeats in battle, right? And then from the time I started, all my training, my whole life was designed for a certain reason. So my outward appearance had to be that way too, and the way I carried myself. And people who say they're intimidated or afraid, well, man, the only people that should be intimidated or afraid are the enemy. That's it, right? But I just I'm humbled and just can't believe it. And I had a valuable lesson learned. I had to learn it the hard way. Somebody always told me, I got some great advice from some important people, and you can't be in a good mood 24/7 all the time. And I mean, with my, the surgeries I was having, the pain, and one day someone's going to come up to you and just ask for a picture or something, or an autograph, or just want to talk to you, and they're your biggest fans, man. They know everything about you, and their whole life revolved around just want to say hello to you, and you're just like, hey, good to see you. And that happened to me.
It did, right?
Yeah, it happened to me. I wasn't rude. I was curt. I was in one of those modes, and I was kind of like, I took the picture, and I was like, but he wanted to ask me a question. And someone told me that. So I found him, and just went through the whole numbers of just paying it back. But I always, when I get up out of bed in the morning and we outside this gate, right, I take all the training it took to be a Navy, a frogman, and do what I did, and focus that into being a good person. right?
Yeah,
Because I
that's
mean, it's,
cool.
the minute somebody looks up to you for doing something, man, they're always looking up to you.
Until you bring it down, which is
Right, and that's on you. You're the only one that can do that. And my father growing up, man, you know, discipline and respect. He gave me discipline every day of my life, and that's how I got my respect. So the only time I lose my respect is when I lose my discipline, and I don't lose that.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, Laird,
that's why I quit drinking. I was just tired of hearing myself say I was going to stop, and then the next day I'd drink, and then eventually I was like, you know what? My mom said to me once, if you can't be true to yourself, then you can't be true to anyone.
I love that. I love that comment, man. There's no greater truth in the world, I believe. It's
in the world.
And when you find that truth of who you are and who you want to be, that's where the whole world opens up to you.
Opens right up.
I love that, man. Thanks for saying that. So one of the final things I want to say or ask you about is, you know, you obviously, I love that you're still searching. You do have that youthful exuberance. You still have that you're in that childlike state. Not that your innocence, directs you, but more so the zest and to live life to the fullest. What are some of the things that you take out from this incredible experience, the amount of time in the water, your loving family, your evolution spiritually, all that? What are some very definitive things that you can share, one or two or three, I don't know, not that with our listeners, that they can start today, Laird, that when they hear your voice and they hear these stories, what are those things that they can start thinking about, pull the trigger on, and start going towards that never quit mindset?
I mean, first of all, we're every one of us is nature, right? We're all nature. Nature is us and we are it. And so to remember that you are part of this thing that we're in, and that we need it. We need that connection with it. It's something that is part of who we are. And how you get that is there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There's 1,000 ways to get into nature and be harmonious, but because the appreciation for nature will help you with your appreciation for yourself. At the end of the day, because if you're nature and you appreciate nature, then you have to appreciate yourself and how unique really that, as insignificant as we are and as a grain of sand as we are, is each uniquely individual. Yeah. And that we're creations of nature, which is pretty incredible. So listen, and we're all in the same boat together too. We're in this same boat. My friend said sometimes, when somebody does something really that just doesn't make any sense to you, and you're looking, he says, look upon with curiosity and wonder, look upon with curiosity and wonder. And so I mean, and lately my conscious, I have a real conscious relationship with my breath, with breathing. Wow. That air is life, and that without our breath we don't live, and every single function in our body occurs with oxygen. And so to really have conscious breath work in general, to breathe consciously, it'll affect your whole emotions. It'll affect your moods. It'll affect your, I do a lot of things to work on creating balance, but nothing can compare with breathing. Maybe ice, intense ice and heat, but we have to connect the mind to the body too. I think there's a separation. I think we separate the two, and that's a problem. We kind of think, oh yeah, the brain but the stomach and the brain are talking to each other. And if you don't nurture the system, then the brain can't be fed. And, I watched, the Joint Congress one time when Obama gave a speech, when he first went into office, and I looked down and I'm like, wow, I can figure out why we have so many problems in our countries. We have all these unhealthy people running it. I go, how about you guys get healthy, eat some good food, run around a little bit, do some breathing, and then come back and tell me that you guys won't all kind of agree on what the right thing to do is,
Mandatory PT for Congress and everybody in DC, man, and we would get things squared away.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love it, dude. Well, Listen, Laird, thank you so
man.
much. Could you
It was
tell our listeners where they can find you, what you got available for them, how they can tap into your energy and what you guys are doing?
Yeah. Well, I got a couple cool things going. I've been involved in a few different projects. I like innovation. I like creativity because it's part of the way what keeps me excited. What did Thomas said? Is didn't say all you need to be an inventor is an imagination and a pile of junk.
Yeah.
I have the junk. I don't know if I have the imagination, but I have Laird Superfood is some coffee stuff products and some other like mushroom formulas, but just health and wellness like food stuff that with high density nutrients in it, that some products that can be good for your stomach, which it can help for your brain. Some good brain stuff. And I have a film coming out. Actually, it's premiering at Sundance called Catch Every Wave.
Awesome. Awesome.
So that's in January. That's going to be coming out. And then I have an apparel line, Laird Apparel. I have some stand-up equipment. We actually created these golf boards that you play golf on these motorized.
I love those, dude. I actually saw the first one down at my parents' golf course in South Florida, and it was sitting out and then there was one right there. I almost jumped on that sucker and took off just because I've watched your videos and I love it. It's awesome, man.
So we got some good stuff in that arena right now. The most recent thing that I have going on is called XPT Life, which is XPT stands for like exploration and performance training, but it's really lifestyle. And it's a program that we're putting on right now. We've done about almost 10 of them now. I actually start one tomorrow where we take people pay to come for 3 days, and they spend 3 days with us, and we kind of run them through a gauntlet of different breathing and mobility. And then we have guest speakers, some doctors that talk about, psychology of wellness and nutrition. And we do some, different kind of fitness stuff, some different programs. I got this pool training system, and we do ice and heat, and we just run them through a mini little training gauntlet. And at the end, they're face down on the dining table, but but all scalable.
So it's good.
Scalable,
that's how you know it's good.
But all scalable stuff, all beautiful stuff. I actually have this. I have a program, this pool training system that I've been developing that's really going to be great for the frogmen as well. I've exposed some of them to it already, and I might come to the East Coast here and do some work with some of your boys over there. Just this system of working out in the water that I kind of organically came upon over. We have this thing where you carry rocks on the bottom of the ocean. So it kind of came out of that, but it's. I avoid any of that kind of free diving stuff where you're scrubbing CO2 because obviously some of the boys have been lost because of that, and we're losing free divers all the time. So I deal a little bit more on kind of high CO2 levels, high heart rates, and then that protects you actually. So we have some, but anyway, so there's a bunch of cool stuff on that side. There's an xptlife.com that has a bunch of workout and nutrition stuff and breathing stuff and kind of a holistic thing. I feel like that's a big push that some of the things I take for granted that I've had in my life that just been, because I've been exposed to some really smart people and I implement it and have enjoyed the repercussions of that. I want to be able to share that with other people. So I look at that as a little bit of a responsibility and because we have some of the health issues. I mean, it's like we have a weird thing going on in the world right now where we have some of the most healthy people we've ever had, but then we have some of the most unhealthy people we've ever had.
Yeah.
It's a strange dichotomy. And, so I just feel like if we can kind of shed some light from the healthy people down to the unhealthy people, then maybe we can bring the whole group up. And if anything, just get some mental clarity, to feed the brain and make people feel better. Cause that's at the end, I don't care if you got abs and all that shit. And if you can lift and this is how do you feel? Like do you feel good? Because that's a big part of it. Yeah, it's a big part of people are just they don't feel good, and so it's hard to think good. If you don't feel good, it's like how are you going to think good and be positive if you feel like shit? And some of it is as simple as just some breathing and some food and a couple other little tricks that you can implement. That, I mean, there's no way around pain, as we know.
Sure.
But you know, I really think it's something that it's some stuff that has to happen, and it's, you know, we can't be working out and breaking people. People are already broken enough. We need to figure out how to kind of heal.
Well, I mean, it's bad enough being in pain. You know, you feel like shit and be in pain.
Yeah.
That's the double up.
Right.
Because those are different.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's the negative pain that we talk about. Well, you know, and just by altering, like you said, Laird, just those little bitty things, you switch the dial to that positive application of pain, and then it all.
Oh my gosh! And then you're happy and you're smiling and good things start happening. Wow! What a trick! I mean,
Huge concept. That's huge.
Again, is it half empty or half full?
You just discovered something.
Like, you decide, you make a decision. I mean, you know, listen, bad shit happens to good people. We know that. Good shit happens to bad people. We know that. But the fact is that, you know, if you have optimism and you have hope and you have and you have positivity, some positive stuff happens. It does. It'll happen. And it's, you know, it's wake up and it's a beautiful day, or wake up and it's a terrible day. Well, if it's a terrible day, then, you know, my wife has a saying: if you have an ouch, God will give you a hurt. So, you know, if you walk around going ouch, then you might get yourself a hurt. Yeah. So, you know, take the other route.
Oh, brother, I gotta tell you, man, I have loved having you on this show, man.
That was great.
I love you guys.
Thank you so much, brother. God bless you and your family.
Thank you for all of everything you guys have done and been through, and I appreciate your work, what you're doing to make you know, to help people. Listen, it's what it's all about. You can do whatever you want, but if you can inspire one person in your whole life, if you can make a difference in one person's life, then that's a life worth living. Otherwise, you know,
what's the point? Yeah.
Don't even bother.
Amen. Take care, brother.
Thanks, bro.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you. Bye, Mark.
Bye, brother.
See ya. Take care.
For me, it's meeting another human being that's as stoked on life as I am.
Spiritual.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, that's what I felt when he talks. He's gone and done the work. He's pushed his limits so far beyond anything he ever imagined as that kid going to Hawaii, right?
You know, the whole time, I'm glad you brought this up. So how far he has pushed that side of it. And I was thinking about our experiences in the water and how far we had to push ourselves. So he's taking that spiritual aspect and the physical conditioning, everything to the max it could possibly go because of which part of the ocean he deals with.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be like that just to...
Well, think about I
don't think you can understand it. Like, some just understand why he has to be like that in order to survive in that arena.
Well, that one, you know, what's considered the heaviest wave ever written with him at Tehipu, or I know it.
Yeah, dragging that arm on it.
Oh, dude, and he's just but that's not. It's like he does that all the time. I mean, he drops in at 100-foot jaws. He drops in at 60-foot Waimea. I mean, this is over and over and over and over and over for 40 years. And look at, and what I love is what we always talk about, right? In SEAL training and the forging process, the pain, the training, the camaraderie. What you see here really is a master at his craft. And his craft is living healthy. His craft is the water. His craft is inspiring people to really go after it and to teach them that, hey, man, it's going to be big and gnarly and heavy, but you can't quit. That's what's going to make you hard.
Oh, you almost have to take the whole craft part out. It's not a craft for him. It's life.
Good point.
Anytime he jerks back on any of the reins on that one, he'll die.
He'll wither
and
and die.
I would imagine the older you get, too, and your body hanging up, then you're really relying on those skills that you've honed in.
Oh, bro,
because you can't wiggle your way out of it with muscle and grit sometimes.
Dude, he's 50 years old, man.
Really?
Yeah.
You kidding?
No, I'm not kidding, bro. That dude is not.
We'll start surfing again.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying, man. Surfing's the surf. I've been telling myself for like 2 years, I've got to get back to surfing because when I get out there, man, all my worries go away. I'm connected to the ocean.
Yeah, I'm not that good, man. I spend most of my time it's a workout and getting stuff handed to me and spitting sand.
Well, dude, I just think it's one of those amazing opportunities that if you ever get a chance to just get out in the ocean, whether you're going for a swim, whether you're going to try surfing on a vacation, whether you're going diving, whatever it is, because Mother Ocean has an amazing way of teaching us things we don't already know about ourselves.
If you hadn't been to a surfing competition or out to any of the islands, and actually it's worth going to see them do that, and it's worth going just to feel that wave hit that beach.
Yeah.
To understand what we're talking about, because there's literally when pipe's hitting, it knocks people down on the beach. I mean, the water just disappears, right? And then here it comes back up, and when it caves, man, it's
epic.
It is.
It's epic. It makes you want to be like, man, why did I join the teams? I could have been a professional surfer.
Sure. I mean, you're looking at guys, check this out. So this is the most uncontrollable force on the planet, water. And You're talking about guys who ride it.
Well,
right.
I mean, you look at Kelly Slater, dude. That dude is the greatest surfer in human history, right? Something like 12 titles. And the guy's 44, 45 years old, still tearing it up against guys half his age. And he's able to do that from the lifeblood of what comes from the ocean, right? And his passion for this beautiful sport. That's what I heard with Laird talking. I hear the true purpose and calling in his life is to be immersed in what the ocean gives him. And that, in my mind, is the never quit attitude. So if you've enjoyed this show, man, I would love it if you went to iTunes and wrote a review for us. Or even if you just like the whole show, T&Q Podcast, no matter what, go to iTunes, write a review, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, please. Share our podcast with all your friends. Get them listening. We're so privileged to have been nominated for one of the top podcasts of 2016 for our iTunes. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. And listen, you have what it takes to get out there and become whatever you want to become. It's going to be hard. It's going to be gnarly. It's going to be scary. But guess what? If you just breathe and you take a breath and you get up off the couch and you go get invested in something bigger than yourself, you too are going to feel what Laird Hamilton is talking about. You too are going to feel what Marcus talks about, what I talk about. You too are going to ignite great stories and become a legend yourself. So I'd just like to first thank, Marcus, thank you, brother. Love doing the show with you. It's such a privilege. Wizard, thank you, brother. Love being with you. Laird, thank you. All our listeners, thank you. I want to thank my girls. I want to thank Jesus. I want to thank God. Man, what a privilege to do this show all the time and to bring such wonderful positivity to so many people's lives. So I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, great show. Laird, thanks, buddy. Again, man, that was, I learned a lot, more than I thought I ever would. So thank you for coming on. Everybody who keeps coming back and listening to us, we can't thank y'all enough. Brett, he did a good job. I'd just like to reiterate the fact that man, we really appreciate it. And to everybody who always believed in me. And hey, thanks for the people who didn't. You know what I mean?
I love it.
The ones who motivated me, telling me I'd be nothing. You try, you need that negative part just to kind of push the positive sometimes. So thank y'all again. I'm out.
I'm out.
Never quit. Team never quit. Team never quit.